And I'm going to be telling you all about our sea lions today while my colleague Lizzie shows you a bit of training. So here at Colchester we have 4 Patagonian sea lions that we are just joined out today by the lovely Atlanta, and she is our princess or diva of the group. She likes to use our waterfall there as her little personal massage. So we do have 4 sea lions, so that the other 3 are just in their off-show houses enjoying a nice bit of fish. So we have Milan, and she is our shy girl of the group. She's a very sweet girl though. Often see her at the bottom of the pool foraging after all the leftover fish. Then we have Sydney, but we like to call her Super Sid or Sydney Square because she's our very sensible sea lion. She's very quick at learning all of her training. She can jump the highest, swim the fastest, and she just lives by that motto of everything you can do, I can do better. And then last but not least, we have Winnipeg, and although she is our smallest sea lion, she makes up for it by being the loudest. So the hardest thing to ask Winnipeg what to do is to just stay still for more than 2 seconds. She's very eager to show everything what she can do, but half the time she forgets what she's doing. Those are our sea lions, and often many people do come up to play a Patagonia saying, wow, look at the seals. But we actually have no seals here at Colchester Zoo at the moment. We only have our sea lions. And they are actually part of the same family, known as the pinniped family, meaning fin-footed. So there are some very clear differences between the two. One of those aren't so obvious, so it's only about the size of the nail on your thumb, and that is actually their ears they have. So take a look at Atlanta there. You can see that she's got 2 little external earlobes either side of her head poking out. And if she was a seal, they'll be internal, so it's more like a hole covered in fern. Of course, this isn't so obvious if you're not right up close, so the most obvious difference to look out for is actually the size of their flippers. So Atlanta's flippers there are about the same size of an adult human arm, and if they were seals, they'll be 6 to 5 times smaller, only being about the size of the palm of your hand. And this does actually affect the way they move away on the land and in the water as well. So on the land, sea lions are very agile as they can tuck those hind flippers into the middle of their bodies. They can jump, they can climb. And I'm sure if I was to ask Lizzie to race Atlanta right now, she's definitely going to lose, because Atlanta, and all sea lions for that matter, can actually run up to 15 miles an hour. So they're very good at holding up their body weight with those lovely long flippers. But the seals, they move around a little bit differently because they're not able to tuck those hind flippers in as well as hold up their body weight. They more flop around the floor like a giant slug or a caterpillar. A lot less agile and a lot more slower. Don't look as graceful as those sea lions. And a sea lion can always do a sea impression, but that seal would never be able to do an impression of one of our sea lions. And of course this does also affect the way they are in the water, so hopefully you've all been down to our underwater viewing tunnel and you've seen how our sea lions like to swim in a breaststroke motion, propelling through the water. And they can actually swim up to 20 miles an hour. But if they were seals, they actually use all their energy in those hind flippers, shaking them from side to side, a little bit like a fish, just like how Atlanta is showing you there. So a lot different. One last difference is actually something you can hear rather than look out for, and that is of course the sounds that they make. So seals are quite generally quite quiet animals. May hear the odd grunting sound here and there, but nothing compared to our sea lions. And many people do associate that honking and barking sound, but our sea lions sound a little bit more like the lion of the land. So we're going to hear from Atlanta now. There we go, nice short and sweet roar. And just like with humans as well, so we all have our very own unique voices, so do the sea lions. So Winnipeg, she's the loudest, doesn't even need a microphone. And then Milan, bless her, sounds a little bit more like Homer Simpson burping rather than a roar, but she works with what she's got. So those are the differences, but they do have a few similarities. And that is actually the predators that they have to look out for in the wild. One of those predators can be up to lengths of 6 metres. They're known as a man-eater. They're a grey, fishy predator, and often many people are very scared of this particular animal. And I think that's a lovely clue given by Atlanta there, but I'm going to give you one last clue, because this predator has its very own theme tune that goes a little bit like dun dun dun. And if Atlanta's giving you a good impression, I think I've given you a great impression as well. And if you are thinking of sharks, you would be absolutely correct. But more specifically, the great white sharks. This is one of their main predators out in the wild. They do have one more predator though, and this one has particularly got a better reputation than those sharks. And they often jump out of the water, making a big splash. And they're about 9 metres in length, and they are a marine mammal just like the sea lions. And this one may spoil it for you, but they are black and white in coloration. They live in a big family group known as a pod. And if you are thinking of orca or killer whale, you would be correct. And the killer whale, or known as the killer whale, isn't actually a whale at all. So it was originally called the whale killer because it literally eats whales. Then it was lost in translation, where people started to call it that killer whale, but it is actually the largest member of the dolphin family. And this particular predator does actually have a 90% success rate when it comes to hunting, so the sea lions do need a few ways to try and get away from it. So one of those is by doing a behaviour that you're seeing now. So this is called porpoising, and when they are jumping out of that water, they are actually getting a breath on the go. Because just like you and I, the sea lions are unable to breathe underwater, and if they're being chased hot at their tail by a predator, they don't want to stop at that surface to take that breath, as that may just be the last thing they do. So by porpoising, they can get that breath on the go, trying to get away from that predator. And if you imagine a very large group of sea lions all doing this at the same time, you're going to see lots of bubbles, and they're actually trying to just daze and confuse that predator. They do have one last resort though, and the sea lions are actually able to launch their body weight out of the water up to 3 meters high. And the females weigh up to 100 kilos. If they were boys, they'd be up to 3 times the size. So I'm sure you can imagine if that's going to land on your head, it's going to give you quite a nasty headache, because they're actually aiming to land on that predator's head, hoping to daze and confuse them. And the sea lions are classed as the least concerned animal out in the wild, so this is clearly working well in their favour. So all of our sea lions are available for adoption, so if you would like to leave the zoo today, knowing that you've adopted yourself your very own Patagonian sea lion, do head to guest services and they'll tell you all the information about that. But for now, from myself and Lizzie and Atlanta, we thank you very much for coming to our talk, and we all hope you continue to have a lovely day here at Colchester Zoo.